Hello everyone, Jill here with a Cherry on Top's September blog hop, and we're focusing on stamping. I apologize right at the beginning for this rainy day light, so hopefully you'll be able to see well enough with the natural light. I think it's better than trying to use other kinds of illumination. So the storm has passed. It's still just a little bit murky out there for the late afternoon light. Okay, first of all, I want to say that I really love stamping. So those of you who are new to it, I encourage you to practice and hang in there with it and experiment and learn to love it and learn your own ways. I wanted to I stamp on layouts for scrapbooking. Hazel, enough. Sorry, my dog is already revving up. And in journals and just about any kind of project I do, I pull out my stamps. But I wanted today to work in my art journal and show you guys a little bit of, to complement what I think some other people on the team will probably be showing you some really great methods for stamping on scrapbook layouts. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately too. And, just what I do and how I'm kind of exploring and expanding in that area. But I've been stamping in this art journal for a really long time. This goes back to last year. So I wanted to show you just a few things in the journal before we do a little bit on today's page. I guess the first thing is you'll just see stamps on almost every page. This one is like an actual background stamp with a quotation around the edge about angels entertaining, being not forgetful to entertain strangers because we might be entertaining angels unaware. And I made that the whole theme of my page, and really it took the inspiration from this older background stamp in my stash. I have several pages in here. Was She Beautiful or Not Beautiful, which is a quotation from a George Eliot novel. I have a lot of examples like that of stamping with letter stamps and creating quotations or titles. You'll see here that this is a stamp that I've colored in selectively with colored pencils after stamping on white cardstock and adhering it to the page. So there are all sorts of ways to use your stamps. Let's see if I can find a couple other examples. In some cases, and I know one that I had marked here. Well, this is a good example right here. Enjoy the season of chill. This I just stamped with gray ink on white cardstock and put it in the art journal. This I stamped in a technique that's called watercolor stamping, where you just apply the ink to your letter and then give it a little spritz of water and then stamp. So those are some of the different things you can do with stamps. I also, when we get to today's page, will talk you through a few things that I've done to get it started, a few things I've been kind of practicing and experimenting with. First of all, there are new dies, as you've probably seen from Sizzix and Tim Holtz, that are stamp shaped. And what's really cool, I didn't realize until I got it, is that you get like different sizes of stamps, and you get including a round one. And what they go with, now let me see if I have these stamps nearby. If not, I can just describe them to you. Just hold on, here they are. This is a Tim Holtz set called Stamp Collector. And the stamps that I'm going to be using today are pretty much all from Tim Holtz. And look at this set. It's just like includes so much. It's really great. All of his stamps come from Stampers Anonymous. They're always available. Even if you can't find them on a website, they are never like out of manufacture. So Stampers Anonymous itself is a great source for the older sets if you don't already have them. Some of you, I'm sure, have some of the sets that I'll be referencing today. I'm also going to use a couple new sets that Cherry on Top has been carrying. But at any rate, these are the stamps that I used in conjunction with the new dies. And I wanted to, again, I'm feeling a little disorganized. I wanted to show you that it's really easy when you stamp to take some, again, I'm looking around, hold on 1 minute. take some cardstock. One thing that I will recommend is the Distress Mixed Media Heavy Stock, available in the shop, and again from Tim Holtz, his Distress line. And you can see this looks just a little different, right? And this is what I cut my stamps out of. And all I did, this is so simple, is just take one of the foam applicators, you know, where you apply ink with a foam applicator. Those are made by Tim Holtz. And apply a couple of colors. There's one color called Old Paper, and I used that. And then I just combined it with, I think it's called Tea Stain or Tea Dye. They're both Distress Oxides. And if you use those two in conjunction, just kind of blend them. They blend really beautifully easily. And then this part, which kind of is like this old paper watermark, I just threw some water on it and dried it with a heat gun. Okay, and that's, I think, it's one of my favorite things to do when I use dyes, is to create my own shades of paper. And that was especially cool for these stamps, because instead of just a white background, I think they really look like old stamps when they're cut out this way. So that was one of the starting points for my page, and I just adhered them, cut the edge off so that they're kind of going off the edge a little bit. And I experimented with stamping on black paper. I guess I should say, first of all, this particular journal is a mixed paper journal, and sort of like a junk journal with maps and white paper and black paper and different textured papers. And you can make your own. A lot of junk journalers do that. I happen to buy this from a little company called Quill and Arrow that makes handmade journals. But at any rate, that's where we have black on one side and white on the other. But I thought it might be interesting for stamping to see how, I'm going to mainly focus on Distress Oxides, how they stamp. They are a mixture of what's called a dye ink and a pigment ink. And as a result, you really can get them to show up just fine on black paper, and particularly the light colors. So I kind of chose a palette for today, and one of the lighter colors is Crushed Olive. The other light color, which is what I used to stamp the 3, is Spun Sugar. And let me grab my little swatches here. These are the colors I plan to work with. Uncharted Mariner, one of the newer Tim Holtz colors. Barn Door, also Distress. These are all Distress Oxide. The light colors that I've already talked about, Spun Sugar and Crushed Olive, and then Rustic Wilderness. And these colors taken together in a palette are kind of the colors I used here. I also used some brown in making my stamps. Okay, the other thing I've been experimenting with is stamping on Dina Wakley's collage paper. Other people make collage paper. Tim Holtz has some too. And what I found is that the Distress Oxides really work the best. I had originally stamped this image with archival ink, and the trouble was it tended to, being more of a solvent ink, dissolve into the paper and you lose some of the definition. The nice thing about it is it doesn't wash out with the collage medium, but I'm sure you could cut this out, stick it down, and it would probably be just fine. There might be a little bit of blending or bleeding of the color, but that's the art journal approach. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about stamping in an art journal is that it's the great place just to play, to practice, to embrace mistakes or happy accidents or things that don't quite go the way you thought. And so I actually started with one image, didn't really like, I'd adhered it with collage medium. And so I pulled it off. I still have a little bit of it here, which is fine with me. It adds a little texture. But then I just stamped directly with the archival ink to create a kind of focal point for the page with this cool little guy. He's in an older stamp set called Theories. This is the set. And besides him, there are so many. I really love the sentiments in this, like accept who you are and revel in it. But I'm going to choose the leap and the net will appear, because when I stamp that by my focal point, as I kind of balance with some stamping on this side, I plan to use his stamp called Noteworthy to to do Believe in Yourself. This I probably will not do on camera today because I'm going to make it more dramatic over here by using embossing powder. That's a whole nother video. It's a very simple technique for those of you who haven't tried it. You just use a sticky ink and then apply a powder and then heat it. But I'm not, it's a bit elaborate, so I'm not going to actually do that, but you'll be able to see it in the finished page. But what I really wanted to kind of just play around with here with you is, besides using this sentiment on this side, probably also in black, I want to stamp in color and use the eccentric collection because it is really wonderful for collage. And I want to do kind of like a stamping collage behind my figure. And I keep burying everything here, somewhere around here. I have what they call a mask for stamping over this. And a mask is just the same image, you stamp it twice, and then you cut it out, and that way you can apply it as you do your other stamping. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not someone who uses masks all the time, and I might have just playing on my own, just put down all the stamps and then use the archival ink over them. But I think this will be fun to try. Okay, so a few ideas and principles. One is grid blocks. These are available at Cherry on Top. They are, let's see, I want to say they're from Catherine Pooler. Pretty sure they're Catherine Pooler's line. They're really nice. They're thick but not too thick. They have grid marks, which are good for lining things up. They come in all different shapes and sizes. I do recommend those. I also love Tim Holtz's grid blocks, which have been around forever, and they come in really big sizes, which you kind of need for some of these larger red rubber stamps. But if you're not going to be doing that kind of stamping, you might not need anything this large. Okay, so let's go ahead, see if there's anything else I was going to say by way of introduction here. I guess not. Oh, the principle I'm going to use when I do this collage is to start with the bigger stamps, work to the smaller, and then the really little ones can fill in open spaces. And I don't have any plan going in except just to use these colors and experiment and have fun. So let's give it a try. This 5 is obviously very big, and I have a 3 on the other side. I'm kind of playing with numbers on this. So we'll start with that. I guess I will just open up all of these inks and if you're going into different inks as you do a stamping like this and you're using the same stamp with different colors, it's kind of good to have, which I don't right now, but a paper towel with some water or a wipe or something to clean off your stamps in between using the different colors. So I think I'm gonna go ahead, start with this 5. I'm perfectly willing to embrace any kinds of imperfections that come up and then just work with them as we go. Oh, I guess one other thing I wanted to show you and try out is this is like a rubbery pad, and it's a good thing to stamp on. I don't use it all the time when I stamp, but in a journal like this, it's a good idea because you have so much underneath at a certain point, and that's going to make it hard to get, you know, images to stamp right. Okay, I'm just going to go for it. See how much that underneath is going to help. Oh, look at that. It stamps really well. Well, thanks in part for these excellent red rubber stamps. They do stamp very well. Now, let's say it hadn't stamped so well. There are parts that didn't stamp. What I like to do in that case is take a colored pencil, even a contrasting color, and fill in the parts that are, you know, like imperfect. And I actually really like that look. Okay, what else is big here that isn't like too distracting from our main image? Like, I could use the pointing hand. Let's go for it. I think it might, my intuition tells me it might be a little distracting, but if we do it in a light color, it could be cool. So let's try this crushed olive. Now, one principle is to kind of move all around your stamp as you load up the ink and look to see. You can see that that hasn't covered parts of it. And then I like to kind of go in like this, tapping the stamp on, tapping the ink pad on the stamp. Okay, let's see how this works. We're only going to use part of this big image. Yeah, there we go. So pretty funky. And I do like, you know, the lighter color for that element. I really like this set. This is not quite as large. Maybe before we get to this, I do want to use this because I used it on the other side, the numbers. And since we're working with numbers, but let's grab this for amusement, for skill. It says for skill and amusement only. Okay, for this shape, I'm going to use this longer stamp. Let's see. Can see that it's pretty well covered. There. The other thing that you noticed when I showed you things in the journal is if something doesn't stamp particularly well, you can always stamp it on a thin paper and just put it over the top, especially in an art journal. And those changes in texture can be cool. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to grab just a tiny bit of adhesive for the mask. Okay, I guess, wouldn't you know? I don't actually have my adhesive, but I'll just use a little washi off to that side because I'm gonna kind of stamp around here, I think. Let's see what would be good. This little star stamp is cool. And we didn't really need the mask for that. But if we were to do this library stamp, which I really love, I have another version of it. I actually have two other versions because it comes on a wood block, like in a full library card size. Okay, but at any rate, let's see. As long as we're going to do this right over the mask, let's just use a really light color. And that way, we won't worry too much if it ends up there. See, now you can see when you take the mask off, that just stamps behind it. I think I'd like to do that again. Let's see, maybe using the other light color. And then we'll move the washi to a different part of the mask. Here I'm teaching myself new things that I can use washi tape instead of like removable adhesive. Okay. Yeah, I got that upside down, which actually would be okay, but given the kind of stamp it is. There. And you see, I went right over the other stamp, and I'm fine with that. This is like a art journal style. I want to repeat the red, and I think maybe with this, as long as this is kind of almost like a circus type image, I think I'm going to use Ticket. And we'll go back. This is Barn Door. Go back in with this color. I think where I want it, maybe right up here. There. And, okay. So you can kind of see how the page is coming together. There's like collage material in the stamping here, collage material in the stamping on the paper that was die cut, but also on the black. And then I want to just show you before we end just some of the smaller stamps and how they can be blended in to fill in white space and also to repeat colors you might be interested in repeating. So we'll take this little tiny one, which I'm kind of trying to pry out of the set. I haven't used all of these yet. The first time you take them out, they can stick a bit. And so to have 3, let's go with the red again. Stamping it right there. And now really these are the areas kind of to fill up. I want to go with, oh, here's a nice one. The other principle, this is a bit bigger to do one more big stamp, but it's round, and we don't have anything that's a different shape like this. And I want to use a dark color and repeat this Uncharted Mariner, which is a really cool color. I'm trying to think. I think I want to overlap the hand a little bit. And when you're overlapping like that, a dark color over a light color, it's really easy. Really, really, I think looks good. I guess I haven't used this yet. This was the number stamp that I wanted to use. It's also one of the ones that's just a little bit larger, and we can afford to have some more of that Uncharted Mariner in here. So I think right here along the top edge would be good. Cool, right? Okay, I have my little stars that I did in the Rustic Wilderness Green, and I'm gonna go ahead and use those to fill in a bit more. I also love this little one. This will pop out quickly because I've already used it a lot. It's like a little circle with numbers on it. And I think we need more light pink because we really only used it once. So you get the idea that as you fill in these spaces, you're also kind of balancing out the colors. Okay, so I think that's what I'm going to do for the video today. And now I'm going to go work on the page a little bit more, get in the 2 sentiments, and make them a bit bolder. One way or another, call attention to them, pop them up, or as I said, use a white embossing powder. And yeah, and so you'll see the finished page on my Instagram and in the Cherry on Top gallery. But I hope that the video helped you think about how you might like to do some collage stamping and practice some of the principles of it in an art journal. As I said, art journals are just the best for that. And if you primarily want to do it on scrapbook pages but feel a bit leery of it because you're putting so much energy into it and want it to look really nice, use your art journal just for practice and warm up before you go to your other project. I really recommend it. Anyway, thanks for hopping along. Be sure to check out the other videos on the hop today.